This is a clouds weather alert. Get thirsty, and everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud coming in the air right now with a severe thunderstorm warning situation as we're looking toward parts of southeast Georgia, watching things very carefully right now. And they look at the Doppler radar technology. You can see this is toward parts of Pierce County there in our area until 6 p.m. Some damaging wind potential, definitely a possibility as we're looking toward this area. Let me go ahead and kind of move some things around on the radar. We'll be able to kind of see here the velocity mode as we kind of give you that latest. There's some wind enhancement in here for sure. Maybe some burst of wind energy as we're kind of looking at the overall situation there. Let's get down to street level mapping. You'll be able to see here right around the Merson community, maybe a burst of wind energy coming on in right about now as we're looking there. So got to be very mindful, got to be very cognizant here. Looking down Georgia Highway 32 there, moving toward Bristol here over the next little bit. So really need to be careful there as we have this severe thunderstorm warning in play until 6 p.m. as we're looking at some of the different Dopplers in the area. Let me read off the warning from the Weather Service in Jacksonville. We're talking about there. The National Weather Service issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for northern Pierce County there in our area until 6 p.m. Also, just outside of the area, it includes areas of Bacon, Wayne, and Appleton counties. So at 5:22, a severe thunderstorm is located 8 miles northwest of Bristol or 11 miles southwest of Surrey, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. I know this is the first severe thunderstorm warning we had today in our 38 county area here. I know in our old area that we covered, further up in towards South Georgia and over into South Georgia, there's been a few warnings here, Roy, but the only one in our area, as we're looking so far today that we are covering here with the 38 counties is 4 parts of Pierce County there until about 6 p.m. Some 60-mile-an-hour wind potential in there as we're looking toward the Bristol community. So just got to be very cognizant of everything that we're dealing with here meteorologically, just trying to keep you guys informed here as the situation does evolve as we're looking at that Doppler here overall. I know some damaging winds occurring here potentially, but also that continuous cloudy ground lightning definitely occurring. So just you got to move indoors immediately if you're in the path of this storm here as we're seeing lightning. Roy is one of nature's leading killers, unfortunately. So remember, if you can hear thunder, you're close enough to be struck there by lightning. So again, a severe thunderstorm warning in play here until 6 p.m. as we're looking toward parts of Pierce County and toward Georgia. This need to be very mindful. This is Thursday, August 13th, 2026. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center, and we're tracking the scenario. I know 22 years ago we were tracking a much different weather situation, coming in toward Florida with Hurricane Charlie hitting down there in southwest Florida. It's supposed to, until the last minute the track shifted. It was supposed to hit around Tampa and come up toward our area more so, and instead it hit there around Punta Gorda and through Orlando as a Category 4 hurricane at landfall 22 years ago today. That really started things off with that 04 hurricane season. Granted, the day before we had a tropical storm hit the state with Tropical Storm Bonnie in the Panhandle, and that, triggered and caused a significant tornado toward Jacksonville there as we were looking toward the northwest side. Some big impacts there. But looking at my alert board right now, we're seeing quite a few warnings in this vicinity. Granted, there's only one that includes our area. There's already been some damage here as we're looking toward Berrien County, where we used to cover a tree fell on a power line. In the Enigma area, you can see looking toward the north even further, severe thunderstorm warning out toward Cordell. You see the warning around Douglas. You see some warnings around Savannah. And you see some damage reports around Statesboro and Swainsboro there. As we're kind of updating you, I know this reminding you guys, over 38 counties are always on for any severe storms moving through these areas. Especially if it's a tornado situation, but even a severe thunderstorm situation, we're jumping on as quick as we can. It was already time for the 5:30 show here when this warning came on out from the Weather Service in Jacksonville. Again, it's a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Pierce County there in toward southeast Georgia until 6 p.m. So let's go ahead and jump back on over here. I know I put in the description about high school football as well. And for that Friday night, I know we have a game here planned in Bradford County, a kickoff classic. And there's a situation where, there's really a scenario where we could end up having just some storm accent around. So just going to have to be mindful here whenever thunder roars. Got to take precautions here, obviously, as the timing looks like it could set up a little bit, on the wrong side there. Unfortunately, I'll have more details on that here in a little bit as we're monitoring things up there. And then also with, those games, kickoff classics, there may be some tonight even here in the schedule. And I know Georgia, they have their game. They may, I need to double check this, but let's see. They may be starting a week earlier with some of their games up that way, as that's how it generally is. But let me double check because some years it can be different here with the overall situation. Okay, it looks like next week's is the week for the actual games here that count in Georgia. So not quite yet there, but there may be some of those games, those preseason games to getting going already as we look up there into Georgia. I know Labor Day falls a little bit later this year, so that, kind of maybe changing some things up. I know college football week 0 is pretty late this year, about as late as August, in August that you can get. So again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here on this Severe Thunderstorm Warning. As we update you right now, this is Severe Thunderstorm Warning, and I'll go ahead and switch some of our radar products around. We'll go ahead and look here. We're going to look here. Velocity, you see some wind enhancement right around Mercon, right around Pine Road, Dogwood Road there, Boyette Road, Evan Road, Horseshoe Road there, east, it looks like Olin Road. Again, maybe some wind enhancement in the Mercon community as we get up toward Pierce County in Georgia with a severe thunderstorm warning situation. Again, this is pretty rural. It's moving toward Bristol and then Aspinwall. Eventually, if this were to get extended, Patterson and Offerman could get impacted here as we're looking at the overall situation. So again, a severe thunderstorm warning here on the board right now with a yellow polygon. Let me see if there's any questions, comments here on this Thursday. Again, it's August 13th. It's 2026. And let's see here. We have quite a few comments. I appreciate everybody tuning on in. Fire Larry Trains watching. Appreciate you tuning in. Nicole there. Thomas. We have a viewer there. Just appreciate you tuning on in. I know you've been on here, over the years some in terms of that, in terms of the covers there. I would try to pronounce that, but I don't want to mess that up here on the air. But just appreciate everybody there. Top Cat, AJ, Danielle. Again, just appreciate everybody tuning on in here as we're looking on this Thursday. So again, just appreciate the viewership out there as we do have this severe thunderstorm warning though right now towards southeast Georgia. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning here. As we get toward this zone, you can see toward Pierce County and our area, but also we have Bacon County there, we have Appleton County there, and we have Wayne County, which, gets us outside of the viewing circle. But again, we're watching the overall activity. It's already crossed into our area here as we're looking. I'll go ahead and pull up some of our different information, and I think the white pen would be the best one to use here. Based on just everything going on. So this is where kind of our area starts, in terms, I know we're streaming and everything, but it's like, in television almost here, as, we have a DMA and these 38 counties here, are the ones that we're responsible for here in terms of the coverage. So don't really want to talk too much, about areas outside of the 38 counties here. So once you cross this line, that's getting into our area. So you see it's moving off generally to the southeast. So again, we have this severe thunderstorm warning here on play. Just keeping you guys up to date there as we're monitoring things very carefully here. Just trying to give you guys the very latest on this severe thunderstorm warning here for parts of our area in southeast Georgia. Until, it's until 6 p.m., but we also have the heat danger. So you know what? With this being kind of a slow mover here, let me check the speed on this. And with it being the only one in the area, I think we'll go into the normal still a little bit here, but we'll go back and forth some. But southeast at 15 miles an hour, the movement there, some damage to roof siding and trees, a possibility there as we're looking in toward that area. So again, severe thunderstorm warning moving at moving southeast at about 15 miles an hour. That's the only warning we have right now within the area. The warning, toward Douglas is Coffee County. I know that's Jacksonville Weather Service, but not quite in the 38 county that we're covering here with the, with the cloud weather coverage. But let's go ahead right now. I think we'll continue to watch the Doppler trends up here, and obviously if something really ramps up, we'll jump right back to it. But let's look at some of the other stronger storms here in terms of, they're stronger, not stronger than that one, but, they're stronger than your typical ones, so they're considered strong storms, just a level below a severe thunderstorm warning in one of those yellow boxes here as we get toward Baker County right now. You see some of this lightning there around Tiger Lake Road, CC Road there, so around Lusty. A little bit of wind enhancement, not enough for a warning there, but we also have some storm action here as we get toward Lafayette County. We're monitoring things out there. As we get out toward this zone, you can see some of this lightning here on the board. Some of this electrical energy. Let's pull up velocity on that. I mean, we're kind of looking further away on it. Let's look at this velocity. A little bit of burst of wind energy getting into toward northern parts of, it looks like Dixie County. There we have some action west of Perry, some lightning around Tallahassee. It's hit and miss here. I think tomorrow's storm action will be more widespread in our coverage area here, and that's unfortunate for high school football. Not everybody's going to get impacted toward the evening, but, I mean, whether the game counts or not here, if it's preseason or regular season, obviously it's an outdoor event and there could be danger here with some of the electrical energy around. I have the rain chance up to 50% now for tomorrow here for our, broad brush. Of course, hyper-local, it can be a little higher, but 50% is what I have here for our 7-day, which I'll see in just a little bit. So had to increase that, unfortunately, for tomorrow because, today even wasn't even showing that much action here within the model one. And here we go with the morning tomorrow. The model one actually showing quite a bit of activity. So I got to be aware here of, those outdoor events being impacted. Again, we have the warning up north there. We have some lightning south of Waycross. Just quite a bit on the board. But again, see some toward Putnam County, a little bit of lightning western Marion County as well. So again, just going to continue to track the situation, but let's go ahead and talk about some of that heat danger here. So we have heat advisory for a lot of us, but then a step above here as we get to our SO mode, we have the extreme heat warning here as we look ahead into toward the timeline. I know we have toward Camden County into tomorrow evening, Leon County into tomorrow evening. So we just got to be careful for that Friday. We're going to have the heat index values well, above maybe even 110 here when we're talking about an extreme heat warning. So really got to be mindful, very much, mindful for sure. It's just going to be slightly cooler by, in quotation marks, by a couple, couple notches, couple degrees per se with the heat index value tomorrow toward areas that are not yet under the extreme heat warning. These areas could get expanded, but it's going to be extra hot. They're extra dangerous, unfortunately, toward these areas here in kind of this purplish color. But there's a heat advisory for a lot of other zones here, as well as we're looking at things, just really wanting to be aware of the danger. If you're not getting storms, you're getting some of that heat. And that's the story right now. Most of us getting the heat and not the storms. We're at 89 here east of Stark, even, down toward the Hampton-Waldo area earlier on. Power was out toward that corridor around US 301. It happened right when I was down there toward Waldo. Some of those traffic lights out. So you want to try to treat those as four-way stops if you can, as you're headed, in toward those areas when, the traffic lights are out there with a power outage. It makes things very dangerous, obviously, as we're looking at it between the traffic danger and the heat. Things, I don't know necessarily anything, bad haven't happened, but it's still something that can make things dangerous here for sure. So again, looking at the alert board, seeing if we get any new warnings. Don't have any new ones besides the one severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Pierce County. But you see the heat index values here are well past 110 in some spots like Palatka. Just above it there in toward Cross City at 111. So again, it is feeling dangerous out there, unfortunately. It is, I guess that may not be the best way to describe it, but you kind of get, what I'm trying to say here. It is dangerous in terms of these heat type of readings here on the board with this heat index value, with these heat index numbers, 109 there toward Tallahassee and toward Leon County right now. So this really got to be mindful. It's so muggy as well there. You see some of these dew point values getting past 80 like in toward Cross City. I know as I look here at my other mode instability we have, granted we don't have all the parameters coming into play with the forcing, everything coming together. but over 5,500 joules per kilogram if we get storms to really be able to have other, parameters. If they were to have other parameters come into play, we're not necessarily seeing that, as the most likely scenario, but period of Mayo, Madison, there are some storms on the board. If we had more of the other parameters, we really could have issues. And tomorrow we probably will have, more storm activity on the Doppler. So we got to be aware of that here. And then in terms of the wind gust, you can kind of see here the overall scenario with all of this. Definitely going to be, something where in these areas where we have the warnings that pop up, we technically could get a gust to 58, 60 miles an hour. That's your severe criteria. So got to be mindful of that. And then those rain chances here, you can kind of see 50% for tomorrow, 50% for Saturday. You can see going down to about 30 for Sunday and 20 for Monday, but then kind of going back up a little bit there next week. We'll have to just see how that plays out. But tomorrow and Saturday, I know it's looking like early week. This week, maybe we're going to get more out of the wet pattern, which we need to rain, though, really. I'll see a drought update here in just a little bit, but it's a situation, unfortunately, sometimes you get so much heat, the pattern, it kind of tries to, balance itself out, and just with the overall instability around, we get storm formation. But as we go ahead and look at the rainfall forecast, broad brush is not a whole bunch through Sunday. This is through Sunday there, 12 a.m., Monday, midnight, as we're looking there. So you can kind of see an inch on average on Stark as you look toward Gainesville, about 6/10 of an inch, and then just kind of that broad brush view here, seeing the overall situation. Seeing the overall situation is one here. We're definitely got to be, watching for the hyperlocal areas for storm formation like what we're having to deal with right now towards southeast Georgia. So let's go ahead and go back up over there right now as we get into towards southeast Georgia. We have that severe thunderstorm warning in play here, and we'll kind of see some more of this on the Doppler scanner on Mercon. That community had that severe thunderstorm warning here on play around Bristol there. Maybe that burst of wind energy a possibility. And looks like you're at 547. A severe thunderstorm is located near Bristol or 9 miles northwest of Patterson, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. So Bristol there, New Lacey. There could be some damage, in a few spots to roofs, siding, and trees there. So we got to just really for your protection, move to that interior room on the lowest floor of 30 building. Maybe a burst of wind energy in there, not out of the question. And then in terms of that rainfall, let's go ahead and see some of these estimates here from the system in terms of the last 3 hours or so. And you can kind of see here, we have some indicators on so in the direction of this as well. But, down moving toward the southeast, we'll be tracking that for you. But let's see our different indicators here. And this says almost an inch of rain already in toward this area in some spots. As we look a little bit north here, the viewing circle that's capable of maybe producing, more like 2 inches towards some area. But there are some spots in the area here as we kind of look around that have seen totals here like toward Taylor County and toward Lafayette County here that are quite a bit in a few spots. Just depends on where you are. It's hit and miss. I mean, a lot of spots missing out, though, as you can kind of tell based on the blankness, just the gray on the map. Not getting that precip in a lot of spots, but we really haven't got much measured here. 1/100th on the rain gauge, and this is kind of showing that here on this map, kind of right on the edge. But parts of Bradford County, granted, I'm looking at the Valdosta estimates, showing about 2 inches, though, east and north of Brooker there. As we're kind of getting on in here, I'll zoom on in a little bit. You can kind of see getting close toward Lake Sampson Lake area. So, again, just watching things there on the overall scan. Let me go ahead and see what we can kind of come up with here as we go through here all the different data points. You have the severe thunderstorm warning there. We have a big area of a severe thunderstorm warning from the Charleston office here till 6:45, getting us from Hinesville through Savannah all the way. It's going through McIntosh County, which borders our area. I mean, you have to, just going to be watching here to see how this kind of progresses, see if this will clip our area or not. But, the Charleston office is in a very big polygon. That's a, unusually large one there. As we're kind of watching that progress, and that may go just a little north of the area. It'll be close as we kind of look there. But that's for 60-mile-an-hour wind gust in a wide, area there. Let's look at power outages, see if maybe there's a reason for, just all, of that geographic coverage there. We're going to go over to the county power outage total. See, looks like around Hinesville there are 300 customers in the dark. I mean, north, though, of that, around Statesboro, 5,000 in the dark up there. That's north of our area, but the point is, we'll have to see if this clips our area or not. I don't know that it necessarily will, but we know we do have a warning in our area right now here out toward parts of Pierce County and to the north of there. As we get toward the Baxley area, 1,000 customers in the dark. As we get up toward parts of Appleton County there, and you have this warning just north and west of Ware County. We got to watch that for northern Ware County. That warning goes away at 6 o'clock there. And we're talking about already 1,500 customers in the dark from that. So quite a bit going on in South Georgia here as we're looking. If you want to talk about just outside of area, I would say it's a lot, but I just don't want to overhype this because, we only have part of one of our 38 counties under an actual warning right now for severe thunderstorm activity. But we're just going to have to watch the overall grand scheme of things here as the situation does evolve. I took the lighting up. You see where the storm accent is a little bit better, but then I'll go ahead and kind of put that lighting back on here, the electric nature of things. You see in towards southwestern Baker County there, some lightning. And then you can see here, you have a significant weather advisory for Waycross now. That makes me wonder if they're going to go with that versus a new severe thunderstorm warning as we get past the 6 p.m. benchmark for some of our counties up there. Let me see. I know they're still at 5:47, the warning continuing for areas of Pierce County at 6 p.m. Southeast at about 15 miles an hour of the movement, but don't see anything new yet. We'll see if they continue that. It makes me think they're going to drop it, but we'll continue to watch. I'll keep checking back. It looks like some strong accent at least, though. Let me read the significant weather advisory off, because that might give me, kind of some hints here on what they're thinking there. So wind gusts around 40 and excessive cloud to ground lightning for that whole corridor from Waycross all the way through Nahana there, Blackshear, as we're getting towards southeastern Georgia. So again, that's kind of the storyline right now here. As we're trying to update you, we're just trying to keep you safe. We're trying to keep you informed here on this Thursday. Let me go ahead and see if there's any more questions and comments, here from the viewers at home. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in. We have folks there like from the Low Country watching. Appreciate you tuning on in on this Thursday. Definitely a lot of alerts more, in toward that Savannah TV market, the Charleston Weather Service area, as we're looking up that way. Charleston TV market and the like. But again, just appreciate everybody tuning on in tonight. Fire Larry Trains, Nicole Thomas there. I know our viewer there tuning on in. I know they were watching. I think they're from the Folkestone area, give or take, because I remember them watching way back when we were covering a Debbie back in 2024 there, a Hurricane Debbie. And then Nicole watching there, as we've kind of alluded to a little bit, as we're kind of looking at the latest information. Top Cat there, AJ, Danielle, and then, our viewer from the Low Country. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in. Let's kind of dive into some more details here with everything. As I try to update the very best I can, just going through some of the different tools here in the toolkit here in terms of all the overall, acts. And let me go ahead and see what we can kind of get on in here, in terms of details. We're going to go back to our SO mode. We're going to show you right now. Again, that's what we're expecting, broad brush, but some areas getting more than that even just right now. As we go ahead and see you the overall lightning safety, just whenever thunder roars, you want to go indoors as lightning can strike miles away from a parent storm. It's very important to keep in mind, especially for outdoor events like high school football here. As we look ahead, that storm chance is going up for that now. Talking about actual named storms, Cristobal's already out of the picture, though. It is not, tropical anymore. That's great news here toward the Atlantic. We have some areas we're watching. I'm not too concerned. What we are concerned about, though, here in the U.S., not the continental U.S., but in the U.S. toward Hawaii, is a tropical storm in the Central Pacific. We're talking about Tropical Storm Lala. It's a different, name list out there as we get out that way. You can see all the convection out here with this, and there's a hurricane watch for the big island even of Hawaii. So if your relatives out there, maybe headed out there on vacation, if you have family members out there, maybe in the military, make sure they're aware that we have a strengthening tropical storm on the way, and much of Hawaii is in the cone of concern here for some impacts this weekend. So you see right now max winds at only 45 miles an hour, but you don't always get, a hurricane watch for Hawaii out there. We've had some tropical systems that generally weaken more so on approach, and this one's expected to here. So something we need to be mindful of if you have family and friends out there or headed out there, or if you're headed out there on vacation before maybe college starts back or something, just be aware that a tropical storm borderline Cat 1 hurricane may be on the way. So unlike, the Atlantic, where I'm not really concerned at all, there is some, legitimate concern here toward the Central Pacific with a tropical storm out here. A tropical storm Lala. It's a different name list that they use out there. I mean, you have different ones between the East Pacific, the Central Pacific even. But if you have relatives in Hawaii, this is, something that's a legitimate threat here. And this makes sense because of our El Nino pattern, because you have a warmer water out there. You have more favorable conditions out there toward the Pacific for more activity, and less favorable conditions here in toward the Atlantic for tropical acts, and though probably more favorable for squall lines here with the overall setup between about October on and off. Not, every week, but, a lot of weeks we could have, pretty active pattern here and there for a day, and then it goes away, with fronts and things like that from October all the way through April on and off. That's kind of what El Nino is going to be about, being so strong here. Got to really be mindful. Some of those will be, maybe just a rogue warning or something. Some could, be legitimate, like, 8 hours of coverage type of events here as we're looking at things somewhere between October and April with maybe some, tornado warnings popping on up in there. So just think about that. That's what I'm more concerned about. It doesn't mean the tropics are completely done with in terms of the Atlantic basin, but it means that, or that's just the overall trend. It only takes one system in the tropics to be impactful for, Hawaii. This could have some impacts here. Some models have been showing it, maybe getting into that hurricane range, which is unusual for Hawaii. In terms of something, it's coming pretty close right now on this, track with the direct line, but the cone of concern actually encompasses, that's what we're really supposed to look at more than just a direct line. You're supposed to kind of look all the way up there at the northern edge, and you could have something near hurricane strength. Maybe, this does actually have it at Cat 1. I know it's shifting around some. At one point it was not showing Cat 1 with a potential tropical cyclone, but this is actually showing a Cat 1 here just off the coast, just to worry. We're watching things, tracking them. Just got to be very mindful here of the overall scenario. So, you have relatives out here. They got to be very, very careful. Very high, surf type impacts there, and just the overall, marine hazards for sure. As we're looking there, just, kind of sum it up as we're, continue to look at our alert information, things like that here. I know if you're looking out there though, obviously, they dealt with that tragic wildfire situation back, I believe, 2023. It's about the same time of year. That was something that this should not, compare to, obviously, in terms of like overall, weather events here for them, because that was sadly with so many people losing their life, such, just a terrible tragedy toward the Maui area there. But just if you have relatives out there, it's still going to have some impacts, it looks like, as we get toward that zone. But let's go ahead and look here. I'm going to go to analysis mode for a couple reasons here. We're going to go ahead and show you that we don't have the warning anymore at the 6 o'clock towards southeast Florida. That seems to have expired, which is some great news here. It looks like the significant weather advisory replacing that there. So what they said here is that they're expiring that, it's weakened below severe limits, no longer posing an immediate threat to life or property, but gusty winds still possible with the thunderstorm there as we're watching things. But again, no formal warnings right now in southeast Georgia like we did have for Pierce County there. But, you see a big area there, and I have to kind of zoom out to show it maybe better. But, if your relatives, that Savannah TV market's getting hammered with storm accident on Hinesville to Savannah. This is a very big polygon geographically. I don't, I know it's just north of our area, but I'm going to measure this because I just want to kind of see here. This is very unusual. This looks like all one polygon and over 100 miles, up there, that we can get that sometimes more. That'd be more, or actually, I think there are two different ones that I can't really see it good on here. Okay, there are two different ones. I was wondering about that then. You couldn't really see it on this one. I'm looking at another mode that I had. There are 2 different polygons, but still, I mean, still, that's a big one. That's probably 60 miles, give or take for that first one and 60 more. That's more like what we would probably see, with a skull line in October. That's not what the setup is. Here's this pop-up, accident becoming a little more organized than you generally see, but that's more north of area. It's just something kind of interesting to me meteorologically here with the warning process. This, a big severe thunderstorm warning for sure. So got to be taking heed if you're, are headed up I-95 there for sure. Again, north of a viewing area especially. So that's something to be very mindful of. But again, we got to be mindful of our local stuff here. Got to be mindful of the local stuff here. See Northern Union County here as we get around Black Creek Road, getting in toward Baker County. You see this storm no longer an advisory with it. And you see some pop-up stuff here and there. See some pop-up stuff northern Ware. Again, this is what we did have the warning, It may get another warning here. It was coming out of Coffee County. These winds look a little lower, but let's go to the Valdosta velocity. It looks quite a bit lower even on that, which is a good sign, obviously. But we'll continue to watch trends here. Let's go to lightning counter. I'm going to tilt this so we're not really counting this stuff north of the area here, or at least up where the yellow box further north. I just want to go ahead and we're gonna loop this here over the past half hour, and we'll watch the lightning count there. It's going down, and then now last couple frames it started going back up a little bit there, but again, has gone down overall with the 2 yellow boxes, the one in our area, one just outside of the viewing circle there, as we're looking at the overall situation. So again, just trying to update you here on everything. Let's go ahead and we'll kind of look here at the information. See a boundary, so that's, indicating maybe, some decrease in strength possibly here. Could be, kind of that storyline as we're looking in toward that overall vicinity. So that's kind of the scenario there. Just trying to update you on all of that. Let me go ahead. I know with us in analysis mode here, I do want to go ahead and we're going to take you out to the tropics here in the Atlantic, though, because there's a couple areas we are watching. Let me go ahead and switch this on over. 7-day outlook. We're going to switch some stuff up here. Toggle some things around. Again, just trying to update everybody the best I can. Just trying to keep you informed here. You see, there's Puerto Rico. So this one, we'll have to see if that's an issue toward Puerto Rico there with the overall development chances. Let me see. I think there's to be 2 of these on here. Maybe they're overlapping. Yeah. That's probably that's what's happening here as we're looking 2 different areas with development chances in the same general vicinity at least. And we'll just have to see, if something evolves, maybe bringing some rain to Puerto Rico. They've had some areas out there where that, they really need the rain. Relatives out there, maybe they really need rain in some of those spots out there based on some of the different, data points that I've been looking at. But right now, no big threat toward us with that. That's why I'm not, I mean, we could really get into that, but I don't think we really need to. I mean, let's show you one more thing on that, though. Let me show you one more thing on that. We're going to go over to the other mode. We're going to go to water vapor. And I need to switch it over to our other water vapor because we're too far out, of course, for the one. You see some acts in there with moisture and more moisture coming, off of Africa there. We'll have to just see how things evolve. It's too early to know anything, in terms of just giving you 100% just a guarantee on what's going to happen, but it does not look like, any obvious threats at all toward the continental U.S. I mean, instead of maybe a stronger storm and recurving, maybe something weaker and going west, pretty far west, and just not really evolving here over the next week or 2 within the model range. It just kind of falls apart ultimately, some of this. So we'll just have to kind of, we'll be looking because, just in case sometimes when stuff sits down there, stuff can change in the model all of a sudden, but I'm not concerned at this point. I'll let you know if something changes. Just a little bit different than what the models were showing, but still not of concern here. And that's some great news here toward our local counties. But Again, just kind of interesting to watch the picture. I mean, you see more moisture pretty much right around here with all this storm acts and then down there in the tropics even as we kind of, I know the computer's trying to go slow because there's so much data in here, but you kind of get the idea as we're trying to update the very best we can, trying to keep you guys safe and informed. I mean, there's quite a bit of moisture here on this as we look at the overall situation. So again, just appreciate everybody tuning on. And let me remind you guys of the 38 counties here right now. Gonna remind you guys of those 38 counties as we look at things here. We look at things on this Thursday. Let me go ahead though. We're gonna kind of go on over. We're gonna kind of get toward that national graphic here in terms of the overall temperatures, those temperature trends, the temperature trends here. I mean, you see how hot it is, and we're going to get even hotter towards some areas. Some of this, a little cooler, these readings towards some of our zones with some of the rain in the vicinity. But we're just going to keep on looking at things here, kind of warming up here in the east. I mean, see already, warmer than us in the east here, toward like Atlanta and Jackson, Mississippi there. Little Rock even, just, quite a bit of heat there. Just the overall pattern. It's going to give even more just really oppressive there with those temperatures. Now, you see an airport delay around Orlando right now, and that would be because there are some storms in that zone. Speaking of storms, though, we got a new warning now toward the Waycross area. So let's go ahead and where do we want to go with this? We're going to go to analysis mode. We're going to go to analysis mode here right now. We got a new severe thunderstorm warning. Let's go ahead and zoom on in. We're going to go to our normal home mode and we'll kind of get in here. It looks like we're seeing some strengthening based on that lightning signature. I mean, remember we did have a little uptick in the lightning and now we have a new warning at 6:45 p.m. So at 6:08 there, severe thunderstorm warning issued for southwestern Pierce and northwestern Ware. At 6:08, the severe thunderstorm was located near Dixie Union, the community there, or 12 miles northwest of Waycross, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. Waycross, Jamestown, Pebble Hill, and Dixie Union here under the severe thunderstorm warning, moving southeast at 15. I mean, this, is evolving here in terms of, let's look at some of our different tools. I'm going to look at the velocity mode here. We're going to look at the velocity mode. And that looks like, let me just double check here, make sure we don't have any type of rotation mentioning at the bottom of this. We do not, so that's good at least, but maybe a burst of wind energy in here. As we're looking northwest of Waycross, as we see some of those brighter greens start to come into play. And we have some different radar scans, and let me see, we are on Jacksonville. That is going to be how far up? That's going to be 8,000. That looks pretty far there on, let me double check my numbers. Okay, 5,500. And then let's see here. The Vedosta radars, okay, it is going to be 2,000. And a little over 2,000 feet up. So that's the one we want to be on here as we're looking at the overall situation. So, and that looks like a little bit weaker signal, meaning hopefully there are not any damaging conditions in here. But you never know. I mean, you just never know for sure here as we're kind of updating you. Just trying to update the best we can. And this is around Sackville there, the Hasty community, Waitersboro there. So again, just trying to update you. We have this new warning for parts of Pierce County here is Ware County in our area. Okay, Pierce and Ware, 6:45. So let me remind you guys of the coverage map. Just remind you guys of the different counties that we do cover here with the overall scenario. So again, I'm just trying to be here for you, trying to be here for the viewership. Just trying to really give you guys that latest. Just trying to, update the very best I can here with the overall meteorology. Just wanting to be here for you. Just going between some of the different tools here in the toolkit. Just wanted to update you. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick 60-second break here to gather some more information. So Keep it tuned here to Cloud Weather. I'll keep you guys up to date as we're looking at the overall tools here, just everything ongoing in terms of that meteorological picture. In the last half decade or so, our area and the region have been through a lot. Stay safe, but it's going to be memorable. I was there around 4 p.m. to document them. Life-threatening situation here. So, again, that's the storyline there. Oh, I think we just had another power flash. Another power flash. Sometimes Bradford County is a tough spot to see a spin-up tornadoes, so we just want you to go ahead and be inside and away from windows. Can't even completely rule out quick spin-up tornadoes. The things have started to escalate here. Please take shelter. This is going to cause a lot of damage. Radar confirmed tornado in southeastern Georgia. We're seeing areas there around Perry. Bear the brunt of this coming into these communities and ravaging them. That's what we got to get you guys out. You got to run from that water. You got to evacuate. You got to follow these orders. This is as serious of a situation as I've seen. This is the eye wall. This is where some of the worst of the weather is. When hazardous weather threatens, trust Cloud's weather. Back here in the Weather Center right now, I appreciate everybody's viewership. Just looking at some of the different tools here that we have with this Severe Thunderstorm Warning. You can see what we're dealing with right now. This is a Severe Thunderstorm Warning for parts of our zone here until about 6:45 for parts of Ware and for parts of Pierce County. So again, just need to be very mindful here of some damage and wind potential. This does include the northern edge of Waycross. I mean, this is nothing like what I'm about to talk about, but you remember there in 2024 with Helene, as it came on through, there were a lot of impacts there on Waycross, all those trees that were knocked down. I mean, even Adalia had a pretty big impact, but Helene, even a bigger impact. Debbie had an impact up there some, as we were kind of looking, back in 2024, but again, I mean, Helene was that one that is the one they always talk about there in terms of that major impact. I mean, you had Hermine in 2016 that has some impacts up there too. But this isn't anything tropical. This is a severe thunderstorm warning here on play. Nothing at that level in general. Maybe, if a tree falls in your yard, though, and it didn't during one of those events, and, of course, it's a big deal for you. But in general, that's to be relatively few and far between. But it's still a possibility when you have a severe thunderstorm warning in play here, as we're updating you the very best we can here with the overall meteorology. Again, just trying to keep you guys informed here as I look at everything here on my different modes. I mean, just trying to give you all those details here the best I can. Let me go ahead, though. We're going to keep watching this as we look right around Saffville and the Hasty community, Pine Valley in there. We're going to go ahead and get back on into the show mode right now, and I'll kind of dive into some more details. So, again, Orlando having some storm activity down there, and that's why they have some airport delays in Central Florida. But as we look toward tomorrow, general thunderstorm risk for us now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a marginal risk, upgrade to that here for parts of our area. Again, I was alluding to it earlier, the high school football games, maybe being impacted there. As we're kind of looking at the overall situation tomorrow evening. We have, like here in Stark and Bradford County, the Kickoff Classic going. And there could be some impacts. So just got to be really cognizant here of all that. I'm going to go ahead and go on in here. Go through some of the different data points. I know that big game here coming on up, as we kind of get things ongoing in that season. So exciting here. I'm just double checking a couple things about it here. With the calendar, it's going to be, that week 0 game. It's a game here where it's not, going to count, but, obviously the weather, if it impacts it, that can, be problematic anyway, obviously. Playing Menendez there tomorrow night in that week 0 game. 7:30 is the scheduled kickoff there at David Hurst Stadium there in the Ward Stark. So just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Trying to give you the updated details on that forecast, which I will here in just a second. Again, we said that warning in Georgia. I'm not forgetting about you guys up there for sure. But let's go ahead and look here at the model. This is not showing a whole bunch for this evening, and tomorrow it's showing quite a bit. And we do have quite a bit already on the Doppler now, so we'll see, if it's underdoing it now, it could be underdoing it tomorrow, and then we might be with you like we were yesterday for 3 or 4 hours again or something. We'll see. I hope not, but it's a possibility. Not that this is something overwhelming, but keep looking at my alert board, and we're going to go ahead and go toward that Friday here, that Friday picture. You can kind of see here some of the storms really getting going, and you saw right when that was getting going. That's what really kind of alarmed me here. I was going to get a graphic together for the football game. I might still, probably try to have one together for tomorrow night for the game, but that, caught my attention saying, okay, we got to message this here to the viewer that we could have some issues here tomorrow evening, because you don't generally, granted, the models have not been good lately, so the way the models are going, it's possible this doesn't happen like this, but if it does, that's going to be problematic here. Right at 8 o'clock, a storm right here near Stark for that high school football game. That would have lightning if we had something like that on the radar. Again, the models, they've been running kind of behind, so maybe this will be earlier and get out of the way in time for the game. But this is what it's showing for 8 p.m. tomorrow here, folks. With people outdoors, obviously got to be really careful with that lightning, with that electrical energy. Hopefully it's, not impacting different games. Again, the kickoff classic against Menendez there tomorrow. Bradford High School against Menendez there. And you can kind of see in the overall scenario here above with the storm activity there in north central Florida. So that could be problematic. And we have a warning right now. And, there may be some games tonight. I can't keep up with every high school football game, especially preseason games within our 38 county. They may be trying to play some tonight across the area here, but it's a situation where I know there's one here tomorrow night, and I'm sure there's probably some toward Gainesville and just, all over the place here, and we got to be very mindful that there could be some lightning impacts. People need to be ready to take precaution here for tomorrow night. Hopefully it doesn't play out like this. The models have been not doing good lately, so maybe we'll get lucky and everything will just fade away here right in time. It's not impossible the way the models have been handling the summertime stuff. They've not had a good track record lately, to be completely honest, but these computer models, this is ARRR here. You see it just kind of showing stuff 9-10 p.m. So we'll watch the trends here, obviously. The summertime stuff's already hard to forecast, and we don't maybe have enough upper data. I'll go through this one more time with you here. We'll kind of progress things on out. And you can kind of see here with the overall situation, with the overall scenario here, you see storms, and then again, 7, 8, 9 p.m., right here around Stark in this scenario. So we got to be mindful of that here. As we're keeping you updated, I'll have the Baron 3K model, so that to you guys here in a moment. You have the percent of normal rainfall here the last 30 days. And you can kind of see we, have had, maybe closer to normal in a lot of spots, but some spots in the yellow, the orange is still below normal here. I know those blues are really would have had more, but here's that latest drought outlook here, that latest drought monitor. And it's still a picture where we need more rain here around Stark and Lake Butler there, and some of these different spots, Middleburg, Green Cove Springs in here. Still need more precipitation despite, we've had the summertime stuff, but we're going to start, until about October. If we don't get a tropical system, then we'll eventually start, kind of getting more of a drier pattern here for a little bit, and that'll be something to be mindful of. And then, even when we get, storms in the winter, if it is above average, then that's something where, that'll be good in some ways with the precip, but we would have to watch for that severe weather risk here with some of those systems as well. Gainesville Almanac report for today. I mean, you see how hot it's been, to 95 for the high today, 99 the record back in 2023 there. As we're looking at the overall situation, you see the record low back in 1962, 63 degrees. That was weird, that cool. But as we look here toward Tallahassee, see only 4 degrees off that record high there. As I keep looking at my boards here, 4 degrees above average, but definitely a little warmer than normal as we look throughout that evening, though. You can see we're still going to have that chance of storms around, especially, Georgia areas where we're paying attention the most. Let's go over analysis mode here right now. Still got that severe thunderstorm warning. We still have that severe thunderstorm warning in play up there. We're just going to keep on tracking that. I know, as we look at the board here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of see the normal radar view for a second. I know the Jags have their preseason game, as we're looking here. I believe it's New Orleans, and that would be indoors, so weather wouldn't affect that this weekend, but we'll be having those updates on those different forecasts for the football games, and they're outdoors here throughout the year. Granted, the Jags will start being, more of an indoor team here starting in 2028. 2027, they'll be in Orlando outdoors still there for the vast majority of the home games that are, not in London there, but, there's going to be, I think, 2 in London that year. But something else I'm seeing here, I'm seeing a boundary. Let's see here. Just have to see how the interaction goes with this. You know, we just got to be paying attention here with the overall situation. Let's go back a little bit longer on here. See some development. I know that's likely our East Coast sea breeze there. Just trying to double check some other sources to make sure, but that would seem, just based on how that's been sitting there for hours, that seems to be our East Coast sea breeze here, and it's, you know, kind of trying to progress in some, and it's starting to, you know, affect some of that action there toward like Glenn County and Georgia. So again, just trying to update the very best we can with the overall scenario. We'll have to see again. The model, they're not handling things tonight. Well, let's look at the latest run of Futurecast. I will show you it's not hardly even picking up on anything here tonight. So again, tomorrow it is picking up on stuff, you know, later on in the day. So we're going to have to be aware of that. And then power outages. I know we've had some here around Bradford and Alachua earlier on. Not seeing those right now, but there are some in North Pierce County where we've been tracking some of that severe weather activity up that way as we're looking towards southeastern Georgia. But let me go ahead and we're going to go back into the show mode right now. Again, just, you know, this evening and tonight, it's a situation here where we're kind of looking at everything. You can kind of see here. I mean, we're going to try to clear on out some as we look ahead toward the timeline. But as we get into toward that Friday, you can kind of see here. You can kind of see here 75 degrees towards dark. 76 Rayford is still going to be pretty muggy. It's still going to be oppressive here with the overall scenario. And then you can kind of see here Friday morning, 82 towards Cedar Key, 75 towards Stark. So it's just, you know, just looking at it compared to the other spots you saw. Stark's technically one of the cooler spots, I guess, but still not great in terms of the overall scenario. And then as we look here at that forecast with the fronts, you can kind of see, not seeing the big systems around, but you see some of the storm formation here, the heat of the day. And just watching that even, you know, as we look there, I saw Saturday and Friday, seeing some of that convection on there for sure in that Baron 3K model. Maybe not as much on Sunday, though. And you'll see, though, for tomorrow, that heat's going to be a big story. 98 there towards Stark, and it's going to be toasty. I'm looking at 91 right now here east of Stark, and we've had that, you know, meteor shower situation, you know, as well, that people are trying to enjoy here toward our area in the nocturnal hours. So that's exciting, but these hot temperatures not exciting here. And, you know, as we look, though, for that heat risk on that Friday, they keep looking at my alert board as well. It's something here where we have like a new warning from Peachtree City, Georgia, weather service. I mean, it goes down pretty far. So let me see where that is. It is north of our area by a good ways, around America. So if your relatives up towards Sumter County, around Plains, Georgia there, and that's where the late Jimmy Carter, former president there, he's, you know, really, you know, was real involved in that community. That's where he was from there, you know, living over the decades there. But I know Severe Thunderstorm warning right now that just popped up for 60-mile-an-hour wind gust and penny-sized hail. But as we go ahead there and look toward, you know, our 38 counties here, you can kind of see again that heat risk, you know, extreme and danger, you know, overall, you know, as we're looking there and towards some of these purples here on the map, Stark, Homerville, Waycross there. You see out west of Tallahassee, just got to be watching for that before the storms. And this is a heat index forecast here. That heat index forecast, goodness, I mean, that is about as hot as you'll ever see. You may get an extreme heat warning for Stark based on those type of numbers with the heat and humidity combined. I mean, maybe not quite as bad by a couple on Saturday. I thought I saw on Friday, I thought I saw there for a second 114 in that, which is not good. In fact, I'm going to go ahead. We'll remind you guys of our 38 counties here. And I'm just going to go through that hour by hour and see if I can pick out where it was showing that. You know, we'll pause it on that. Yeah, there we have it around 2 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, here we go. Feeling like, according to this right now, 114 around Stark. That is not great. You know, feeling like 114 there at 2 p.m. tomorrow around Stark. That's not what we want to see here, you know, as we're watching things toward Bradford County here. You know, a part of our 38 counties, of course. We just really got to be careful with this heat. Got to be mindful. Just, you know, I know it's common sense, but here's that graphic again. You know, I keep showing it, but it's just worth reminding you again. New, schedules of the back to school routine. Just don't forget anyone in a hot car. Everyone operating on autopilot. Once in a while, have a plan. Place a bag or other item there in the back seat to remind you of passengers after you park. Place a stuffed animal there. Maybe, as one option in the front seat as a reminder to check for passengers and consider additional methods such as phone alarms, partner buddy check-ins, or building car reminder systems. And then heat safety when working. Drink a cup of cool water every 20 minutes. Even if you're not thirsty for long jobs, just drink a beverage, electrolytes there. Take regular breaks to rest and during hot conditions. Skipping breaks is not safe. Just take periodic breaks in the AC if possible. Spend time in the shade, in these type of situations for sure. As we're looking at things, it's when you're outdoors, of course, as we're watching the overall scenario. And it's still going to be hot there. I guess this is better than a tropical system, maybe coming through. Granted, a weak one could give us some beneficial rain if we didn't, have the other hazards with it, like tornado threats, and it wouldn't be maybe the worst thing to cool us down and give us some rain. But looking like it's hot here as we look here, August 21st to the 27th as well. So, again, just got to be mindful of that. Let me see if there's any more questions, comments here on this Thursday. Looks like we have a viewer there around Savannah, in that severe thunderstorm accident there north of a viewing circle, but definitely severe is what, they're characterizing this as, the accident up that way. So not a fun situation up there for sure. As we're looking overall, that is not fun at all. In fact, let's go back to the Doppler then. We're going to go ahead, see what's going on. We have our local warning here toward parts of Ware and Pierce counties here. Let's see the latest. That's till 6:45, so another 16 minutes here. We'll get to the 7-day here as quick as we can, but that wind already looks like it's on the edge of the polygon. May get another warning here down to the south and east, and just coming across there right now, though, as we get near, it looks like Clog of Bay Road, if I'm pronouncing that right there. I may not be, but, near Carswell Avenue. Here you see Smith Road, it looked like in here. Again, just you see some accident to the east here as well with the overall situation, but that's non-severe over there toward Niana right now. But this is potentially severe here as we get toward Waycross, as we look toward Ware County. So I know Waycross area, they have 86 degrees of the temperature, 23 knot winds at the airport, but there was a gust there, a mesonet station there, closer to the storm accident to 42 miles an hour at 15 past the hour. So, indicative kind of what we're seeing here. Just kind of loop this here over the last little bit. You see all that brightness there on the pixels there with this severe thunderstorm warning situation. So, again, I'm just trying to be very mindful here of all that. Just trying to be very mindful here as we're looking, again, parts of Ware County. You see there Carswell Avenue, Muscat Bay Road, Musgrove Lane, Leanne Road. Definitely seeing that impact there. Definitely seeing that. We also have a strong storm around Lake City based on this advisory here. So 6:45, quite a bit of lightning there as I go back to the normal mode of radar around Lake City. Heavy thunderstorm there. And then you see some stuff to the St. Johns River. You see a storm in northern Marion. You see southern Thomas. So, again, we have this stuff around Savannah. Our viewers referencing some really nasty weather up there just north of the viewing circle. You have heat dangers, part of that, triggering all this. But, as we try to keep you informed here, we're just trying to give you guys the very latest information. I'm looking at all my different computer sources to keep you guys informed here on the overall developments. So let's check out this again. See some in Ware County now. Some customers in the dark there. The storm activity kind of really evolving as you get there towards southeast Georgia. Seeing some of that development meteorologically, some of that kind of coming in from the north. Let's kind of see some of the genesis of that coming from, stuff, further up there in toward the southeast. So, again, watching the overall pattern, I know it's been active, toward like Indiana. They've had some big flash flooding problems there. Toward Indiana, for instance, as we're looking up in the overall pattern there meteorologically. So, something to kind of touch on for sure. Just trying to update. Let's see what else I can go to here. It's just a one-man band, but it's all about trying to give you guys the latest. Again, that heat gonna be prevalent here as we look ahead in the timeline, sure, but let's look at the Baron 3K for tomorrow. I'm gonna do some moving around here live because I want to talk about that high school football accident again. We're going to go into our other mode of this, and we're just going to kind of try to move some stuff around. So first off, I'm going to zoom this in some. Okay, so we're going to look here at this. This is the Baron 3K. I haven't been showing it zoomed in like this lately, but there's kind of our view here. We're just kind of trying to get that as best as we can for everybody at home. And then we're just going to see what it's showing here. And it's showing something, not quite as active as what HRRR is showing around high school football time, but still some action on its own. So I kept scrub back and forth around Tallahassee, some storms around 4 or 5 o'clock. You see around Stark there, you see there in Bradford County, maybe something, but it's not really getting them going as much, which would be good compared to what HRRR was showing. It was showing something quite a bit different there with the storm development. So that's just kind of interesting to compare and contrast. But then on Saturday here, as we kind of progress, it shows here a little bit more action on Tallahassee and South Florida. I know we're always showing some of that stuff Saturday night. And models definitely have some different, views, different opinions, I guess, on this type of situation here, how it could come together meteorologically. As I keep looking at some of the different computer sources, I mean, we'll contrast this here again. I know I'm in Bradford County, so I'm watching from my Bradford High School, team there tomorrow night a little bit with the weather, just, the idea of it for our viewers at home, the tornadoes, and that's what their mascot is, ironically, as we're looking at things there. But let me go ahead and we'll kind of put our model into play mode here. And I'll go ahead and come back on camera. So this is as we get into word tomorrow there. You see the storms bubble up, and then around 8 o'clock there on Stark, there could be some issues according to this. The Baron 3K didn't really show that. This does. So we're just going to have to be kind of watching things on the fly here as the situation does evolve. I mean, you kind of see now it's not initializing too well, but we'll just continue to look here at the different trends, obviously. I know as you guys maybe got to the coast of that rip current safety paramount still. If you're not familiar with the area here, we just got to still be careful here. Some days the threats aren't as high, but you just still got to be very mindful here. And in that 7-day forecast, though, you can kind of see that overall storyline now. Look how hot it's going to be. Look at these numbers. These are not pleasant numbers to have to put on a 7-day here. 98, 98, 98. 98, 99, 99 here with the actual air temperature. These aren't the heat indexes. These are the air temperature getting, 99 there next week as well. This is not good in terms of the heat. People lose power. It can be, dangerous pretty quick for those that are elderly. Just got to drink plenty of water, wear that light colored, loose fitting clothing, watch out for the storm chances that I keep looking at for our alert board the latest. But this 7-day is not a pleasant picture here with 98 and just all over the board, upper 90. Some spot definitely getting to that triple digit mark. As we're looking here in the overall scenario. I mean, the rain chances go down some, and then they kind of dip back up toward like next Wednesday. And the models have not handled things great, so maybe we'll get lucky and it won't be quite as hot. But the overall pattern seems pretty entrenched for that as the storm chances are a little more, tentative here as we look. I mean, the models were not handling things good, for our event yesterday back on Monday. I had a really low chance of rain for Wednesday, and things really escalated on us. So there's still, some variability here with this, some variables we have to watch out for here with the overall picture. But this is not a fun 7-day here at all with these temperatures, approaching the triple digits here with the actual highs. This is not even factoring in the heat index there as we're looking, as we're monitoring things. Just trying to keep you informed here. Just trying to keep you updated. See if there's any more questions, comments here from the viewers at home on this Thursday. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in and trusting me. Looks like we have Thomas watching. Appreciate you tuning on in here to Cloud Weather Extended Edition of Cloud Weather at 5:30. Let me just see what else we might have here. Let's see what else we might have with the latest details. Just trying to keep you informed here on everything. Looking at all the different tools in the toolkit. Let's get back to analysis mode here on the Doppler. Okay, still got our warning there. We had that wind report I was alluding to. 42 miles an hour at a gust of 615. We still got this yellow box here on the board right now. See some wind. It doesn't look overwhelming, but again, we're just going to have to keep you updated here. We have this warning for parts of Ware and parts of Pierce counties here in towards southeast Georgia. Again, just trying to keep you up to date. Trying to keep you informed. That's what it's all about here at Cloud Weather. Again, just watching the different wind signals here. This is off the closer radar. Looking only about 2,000 feet up there about off the radar. It's only showing winds right now here about 37. So hopefully this warning will go away here pretty soon. As we're looking at this area here. Let's check the power outage information. .500 out in toward Ware County. Pierce County 100 out. You know, interesting the geographic nature of Ware. It goes all over the border. It's just a weird shape there. That's, that is Ware County. They're right at the state line as well. It just takes, a little bend to get there as we're looking. And then we have some of the outages there. Clay 100, 300 in Columbia, 100 out there. As we get, just west of Valdosta, of course, as we get toward the equipment area. So we're talking about Brooks County. So, again, just trying to update the very best we can. Definitely the storms around areas there are more like Savannah, maybe a little more broad, in terms of the, impact being to more people there. You can't see as well on our radar view that we have. Jacksonville's really sowing this wind here in South Florida, but that's more rural, as we're looking out here. You have Needham there. Eventually you get further over, you get toward the Okefenokee out here. As you look at some of these different zones, but okay, at 6:33, a severe thunderstorm was located there near Pebble Hill or near Waycross, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. Continuous cloudy ground lightning occurring with this storm. So, really got to take heed of that as we go to velocity. Loop this here the last 30 minutes or so. You can see that count here going down some with the lightning, which is a good sign, meaning hopefully this warning will go away there at about 6:45. Based on all the indications, it looks like that's going to happen. So, but before, assuming that goes away at 6:45, we'll be wrapping this up soon here. Our extended edition of Cloud at 5:30, unless we get another warning somewhere else. And that didn't look like too much on the wind energy, side of things. Kind of, you have a car, you open the hood, you go under the hood to see what's going on with the wind mode. That kind of tells you some other things that are happening. Not just looking at the, front of things with the radar, but going into that with our velocity mode here to see what's going on. And the winds don't look too crazy there, but a little more toward west of Waycross, but not overwhelming. Got this storm here as we look, towards Charlton County till 7 p.m. advisory. This here looks like it's a little bit, more noteworthy in southern Columbia County around the Murtis community, Mason. We're just watching things. 41 miles an hour. They're moving down toward the Ellisville area. See Providence there. Have to make sure this doesn't get a severe thunderstorm warning. And this is right there on I-75. Not quite as severe a limit, though, but we'll watch the trends. We'll watch those trends for sure. You see a storm, Northern Marion. We're going to have to watch. The values are to 7 o'clock. See this stuff here near the state line, Florida, Georgia border. The values are to 7. Some gusty winds possible in there. 6:45 further east, but got a little bit of wind over there. Nothing too crazy, but I'm kind of interested about this storm here. In toward Columbia County. So it's going between some of the different scans here. We're just trying to keep you informed. Again, just watching the situation. Let's get up to southeast Georgia again here. I'm going to check questions and comments again. Just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Thursday. Appreciate the viewership here. Looks like we have a viewer there. Just found me last week. They're getting thunderstorms in the Waynesville area. Thanks for covering you guys in Georgia. That's what I do here. I appreciate the viewership. I appreciate everybody watching. And I know, it sounds like, They're saying it just started there and it sounds rough. So yeah, just stay safe, obviously, as we're looking up there toward the Waynesville area and toward southeastern Georgia. And then got, a viewer there talking, as well about, weather radio station in that area. Just, gonna be kind of, mindful there, of that, as well as, just gotta be obviously, listening out. Have multiple ways to get alerts here as we keep you informed, as we watch things there, as we keep you guys up to date. Let me kind of switch my monitor back over. Looks like gonna be maybe some, stronger storm, acts in there, triggering maybe special weather advisories, special weather statements toward areas there and toward like northwestern Glenn County. So we're watching that. But let me go ahead here and we're going to kind of look here at some of this. So there's Nahuna, as we look in toward that area. Just trying to keep you up to date. Just looking at all the different tools here in the toolkit. We're going to go east here. And then there's Waynesville. Not a warning over there, but you have the lightning in the area. As we kind of zoom on in here, there's that Waynesville community there around Browntown Road. Think about everything that happened there with the wildfire situation, back in April. Just my thoughts and prayers keep going out to everybody impacted by that up toward that area there. But as we go back on in, you see here, just looking at all the different tools here in the toolkit. Again, there's the Waynesville community. Again, it looks like for Waynesville proper, a lot of this may be, the worst may be going a little east, a little west there, but you still have the light in the vicinity. Just, whenever thunder roars, of course, you want to go indoors here as we're kind of updating the very best we can. So, again, just trying to, be mindful here of things, as we look towards some of our different communities here on the Doppler technology. Got a new warning north of our area by a good ways here now. Randolph and Quitman and Clay and Georgia, Terrell there to 745. That storm there has, it looks like, the potential for some 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, penny-sized hail. So, going to be monitoring that there, but, it's a ways away from our 38 counties. Let's look at some of the scans. Again, this is something I'm kind of curious about here. I'm going to see if we can get a camera view. I know the advisor just went away, but our warning's gone away for where at 6:45. Let me just kind of see what we can kind of pull up here with some of the different cameras toward I-75 south of Lake City. Gonna see what I can kind of pull up as we update you. Give me just a moment here. This Florida 511 Department of Transportation cameras can be really helpful here, with some of this weather coverage. Just trying to give you some of these views, but it is a one-man band, so having to go to the other computer system to try to put that up on the screen for everybody. Let me kind of get that on in here. Just trying to update you. I know, as we alluded to the Jags, Jacksonville Jaguars away for their first NFL preseason game this week, but then they'll have the Panthers and then the Buccaneers there. Tampa coming on in as we look later on in the month, so we'll have to watch the weather for those games on Fridays coming up, later on in the month. But let me see what we can find out with this storm in Columbia County here. I-75 at US 41/441. This is a camera we can use, here for sure. And, I've used it quite a bit, is where I'm kind of going with that here. It definitely would work in this situation now. As we're looking at our map, Columbia County, see I-75 on the indicator. There's about where that shield is actually on the indicator for 75 is where this camera's going to be that I'm about to show everybody. So it's not showing it, too terrible right now, but just in the overall vicinity. We're definitely watching things as you see this Florida 511 perspective right now. Again, you see some of these wet conditions here. See some of the stronger ones start to get into Union, a little bit east of the interstate now in the latest scan, but I'm looking over here. So I'll switch back, I think, in just a second. excuse me, I've just been on for a while, but trying to give you guys the very latest here. Trying to keep you guys up to date on everything. Trying to keep you informed on the overall scenarios. Again, we're just trying to be here for you. Let me go ahead and see what I can go to here. We're going to move away from this and back over to the scan. You see 41 miles an hour. So again, I was looking at one camera there, kind of trying to tell that story there. You just saw kind of the darker, skies kind of affecting things there and toward that area. But seeing some stronger wind. This is right there, just around between Ellisville and Providence. And moving off generally toward the south and east there. So don't know the exact cause, but there is some, it seems, wind, yesterday that was the cause of some damage there toward some construction project, there toward Columbia County. So that was a big deal as we were looking out that way. Just, everyone to see, all that work people put into things kind of, fall down with some storm acts. And as you see, a new advisory now being issued here toward this zone here in the viewing circle, level below a severe thunderstorm warning. Again, we have heat advisories all over the place, by the way. As I've alluded to, it's, just the extreme heat warnings. A few counties, I have the heat advisory turned off to kind of clean things up a little, but still going to be watching for those heat indexes well into the triple digits. You saw, the 114 there for tomorrow, well into the triple digits, so the 114 for starting around 2 o'clock tomorrow. That's not good in terms of the heat. Just got to really be extra careful, but really slow-moving storm there around areas in toward parts of Columbia and Union till 7:15, moving southeast at 5 miles an hour, wind gust around 40, excessive cloud to ground lightning in toward that zone. So you see Ellisville, you see Providence there, you see the Mason area. Again, just watching here on these scans till 7:15. Not enough for a severe thunderstorm warning for now. Of course, if you end up getting one there, I'll be back on. But we went southeast there, pretty slow movement. But, excessive rainfall definitely into some of these spots. Let's see how much rain's kind of falling into some of these different areas here over the last little bit. So, see some of these spots here, an inch and a half there as we're getting toward Lake City and 7/10. It varies a little, but there's quite a bit of rain in that area overall. We'll get down here. We have the heat advisory again, but you have 8/10 of an inch there as you look right there toward downtown Lake City, so Columbia County there. And in Georgia, you see some of this rainfall. You see around Nahana, you see your 301 area, and then Waynesville, not as much up there right now, but we're seeing some of that to the northeast around the Thalman there, that community, seeing some of that activity. But yeah, just trying to give you the latest for the 38 counties. I'm here in Bradford County, North Central Florida, keeping you guys up to date. For those 38 counties, we're about to wrap unless we get another warning. I think I may check the weather accent again. I'll check questions, comments again too. But let's just go ahead and put up the coverage map. You have Ware County there. You have all of our different counties. We give you guys the latest on here for cloud weather and have the daily 5:30 Saturday and a little more extended. We have our severe coverage, of course, whenever we have severe thunderstorm warnings around. And then obviously any tornado warnings from the 38 counties, which we're always on for as well. Giving you guys the very latest on the different platforms. I'm on, YouTube there at Clouds Weather, but also on Facebook there at KC Cloud WX, Facebook Clouds Weather, Twitter/X at Cloud KC, Twitch Clouds Weather, and you have cloudweather.com, cloudsweather.com with the S there, but no apostrophe for the website. So cloudsweather.com, gives you all those links, the interactive radar. You can download the Cloud Weather app even, from that source there. It gives you the links for the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. And as we're kind of looking at the overall situation, Google Play is listed as Clouds Weather with the apostrophe S. And for the Apple App Store, my app is listed as KC Cloud Weather. And then we'll just look here, though, at the velocity in Georgia. Again, it looks quite a bit weaker overall. Quite a bit of lightning, though, east of Nahana. That does stand out here. But the lightning trend here looks better in toward that zone. You see how it's dropped off generally. You see here, though, this definitely has quite a bit of lightning in it here toward parts of Columbia County. It's been kind of holding its own here, it looks like, over the last little bit. I mean, maybe a little bit of a dip, but still a good bit of lightning that, that says the lightning in the last 15 minutes. That's what that counter indicates. Whatever's on this frame here, it counts all the strikes in the camera view within the last 15 minutes. So that's what that number above me is right now, 68. So that's what that indicates. But again, we'll be back one if needed. I know that 7-day has been a dramatic one here, in terms of that heat danger here. 98, 99 for that high looking ahead the next 7 days. So that's not fun. And the heat index is, the feels like temperature, making things feel quite a bit warmer than that. So, we'll be back if we get more warnings, obviously. I'll be watching things very carefully. Let me just check questions and comments again here. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in. I don't think we have any severe thunderstorm warnings toward Brantley and Glen right now, but it's going to be, I'll double check here again, make sure I'm not missing something as we're updating the very best we can. Definitely the advisories, though, as we're, trying to keep you informed here. Yeah, we don't have any formal warnings right now in our area. There's been some damage around Savannah, I see. There, Chatham County Emergency Management, just north of our area, but just for perspective, near I-95, Emergency Management reporting a power line down and blocking one lane. There, it was a road there just off of 95 there, near the intersection of Brandy Road and Grove Point Road, and then you have Emergency Management reporting a tree down in the 3000 block of Little Neck Road near the Tom Coleman Highway / I-95. That road area has been closed. Hinesville area, Fort Stewart, they're picking up a gust of 60 miles an hour there earlier on at about 5:55 p.m. So these storms up further north have packed a punch even more than what we've seen verified today. But you know what? Tomorrow we might have more of those type of reports of 60 mile an hour gusts more toward our area. And that's why we're concerned, like the high school football games. I mean, don't just cancel them outright, but got to pay attention to the weather. I mean, it could end up being a situation where some have to be postponed or really their kickoff classics. So probably just being canceled here. It's a possibility. Some probably will have to be. Some will be just fine, though. So you got to check in with the, forecast. You're checking with the radar, really. The models have been, flip-flopping around. So, just really checking with the radar hour by hour, minute by minute tomorrow to see how things are going with the lightning toward the different zones here as we watch the overall situation. But before the storms come in, it's going to be hot. Heat index value well into the triple digits. You're going to feel like, according to the one forecast I was showing you guys there, 114 is what it was showing for Stark there in the middle of the afternoon tomorrow. That is not what you want to see, obviously. That is about as high as I've ever seen it, in terms of our forecast. So not fun. Some spots definitely getting to 100 some of the different days, about as hot as you'll ever get here any time of year, much less here in mid-August when school's already back and, session. So we could have more of those extreme heat warnings. We have that for parts of our area for tomorrow. Let me just check that again, make sure, we'll check a couple things again. Let's go to 7-day real quick again. 98, 99 here. I mean, this is not fun here, folks. And the heat indexes are higher. These are the actual air temperatures as we look at this. I mean, you just got to be very cognizant of the overall situation. You just got to be very mindful. This is not what we generally get in our area here. I keep looking at our board to see about the latest alerts, but this is not what we generally get here in our area. And then let's check a couple more things here. I'm going to get up our heat alert graphic. I just want to make sure we don't have any more of the extreme heat warnings here being issued. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the other mode here, because that's a pretty big deal, the extreme heat warning graphic. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, some areas, are going to have it worse than others. We technically don't have it for Stark yet. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets expanded here for that Friday before that storm chance comes in. I mean, we had that day, a few weeks ago there we had to turn the logo red because of the extreme heat warning, a slight risk of severe. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up having a marginal risk of severe for quite a few folks, and then the extreme heat warning gets expanded. So I don't know if we'll get to a slight risk, because that would indicate maybe a severe thunderstorm watch being needed. Probably not quite to that level. Not quite enough to turn our logo red or anything like that, but still that didn't mean you couldn't have impacts. I mean, that's just a way to kind of, talk, in a way to the viewer there about messaging that it's a little bit bigger day than normal. I mean, you can still have those without really, having the justification for like the red headers and stuff with the overall storyline. It's just a way to kind of, talk about maybe more increased confidence in one of those more impactful days. We've had some pretty impactful days here already last few months, and it doesn't really look like it's going to happen until right when it starts getting going. So needed to be paying attention here to the overall scenario here. Again, the extreme heat warning for Leon tomorrow and for Jefferson, Wakulla, into Georgia there, Camden, into Glenn County. We've had some of that there as we've been looking towards some of the different zones here on this Thursday with these heat dangers. I mean, till 8 o'clock, we do have it still remaining for Camden and Glenn, but one toward Leon and the Panhandles tomorrow. Tomorrow only for now for the extreme heat warning, but that could change, obviously. Could see this get expanded, further out toward the weekend. It's not what you want to deal with, obviously, with that extreme heat. Back to the analysis mode we go. Again, stuff just below severe limits here in spots. Like as we look towards southeast Georgia, around Waynesville now, we've seen some of this really kind of come together. I know we're kind of on the edge of some of these radars. Let's look here. The interaction, yeah, we've started to see it kind of the end of it there, the back end kind of strengthened there, and got a little more light and a little more heavy rain in there as we had some interactions going on. Let's see there, maybe some boundary interactions. It's kind of hard to tell there, but a little bit of that heavy rain coming on through. Let's look here at the velocity. I mean, you saw how the wind, it looks like more to the south there overall, but you see there kind of, it's coming together a little more to the south, though. That's kind of a little bit concerning for maybe some type of warning downstream. We'll see. South of Waynesville, though, at this point, New Post Road there. As we look toward, like, Camden County. Again, we may be back with you. It's so close. That's why I'm kind of almost hesitating wrapping up, because these numbers are not far off from needing a warning, but you have the other radar mode, and you see maybe not as bright on here. And some of these, spots are closer. And you have this storm here in southern southwestern Union County there on Providence, Brown Steel. I just hate having to jump off and come right back on. But again, outages, you do see Warren County leading the way there, unfortunately, with outages there. Pierce County with some power outages as well. I know that can be kind of, after a storm comes through, it's not what you want to see anytime, though. A power outage. I know we had some of that, literally having to go back earlier on 301 myself. Waldo and Hampton without power, so the traffic lights being out, kind of unusual to see. It's an unusual fill-in for sure, and after a storm comes through, that, is going to be something that's similar, if not even a little bit more, a little bit more nerve-wracking, depending on the type of intersections you have to go through with the traffic lights out and the level of traffic in play there. So, again, generally not out myself when the power's out like that. In the heat of the day, it wasn't weather-related, it doesn't seem, the outage down there, but definitely in the heat of the day, not good to have when, the air conditioners go off. It's just, generally I'm here in the weather studio when a power outage happens, when I'm not in here, generally the weather is pretty good. It was there, but it's a situation just for the heat danger. The weather was pretty good. It's just a scenario where we ended up having something, non-weather related cause that apparently. As we go ahead and looking towards southeast Georgia, though, that looks like it's picking up toward the Okefenokee area. 49 miles an hour southwest of Fort Mudge. So, if we have to jump back in, we will. I think I should just go ahead and wrap this so at least people can see that forecast, though, when they're, looking at this. Like Facebook, you can't watch everything back until it's over. YouTube, you can, but on Facebook, you can't. So I'm going to wrap it, and then if I need to come back, we will. If not, back tomorrow here as warranted, and then, of course, for the 5:30 report. So just going to keep you guys informed here the very best I can. I know, talking about some of those higher gusts there for sure. Towards southeast Georgia, north of our area around the Fort Stewart area. Alluding to that here just over the last little bit for sure. As we look, north of our area, some impacts with some of these storms, up that way. If you have relatives up there, I'm sure you've been glued to those local meteorologists that cover that zone as we keep you guys informed. So, again, I mean, it's the outage story up there. I mean, you see all the tree damage, in terms of like Statesboro. And then you see some of these outages there. Some of the different zones. But, in our zones, we're County 1,000 out. Columbia 500 out. 100 out in Clay. 100 out there as we're getting toward Pierce County. So, again, we're going to be back here if it's warranted. Don't get me wrong. But we're going to go ahead and try to wrap it up for now. With no active yellow boxes, no active severe thunderstorm warnings. Nothing like that on the board at the moment, but it can change here rapidly and I'll be back here with you again. The heat's going to be the bigger story before the storms go on that Friday, that finally Friday. So let's see. Do we have a new warning? I know our viewer is saying there's a new warning. Let me check it. Okay, new warning there. It just came across some other systems, so we're going to have to stick with it. Okay, we got a new warning now closer to the state line, in fact. Okay, so let me switch this over then. Okay, so we're going to stick with it then. That's a good thing, going ahead and just checking that there and seeing that comment. Just double checking my other maps. So we did have a new warning pop up there toward parts of Charlton County. So we're going to have to stick with you now to protect you, your friends, and your family here as we look down toward the Folkestone area. So we have this severe thunderstorm warning in play. It doesn't look like a whole bunch, but we do have some up here a little bit stronger. That's from the Okefenokee. So the Okefenokee swamp area. So maybe you're able to have a little bit more, of the overall parameters coming together in toward that area. So we're going to stick with you now a little bit longer as we're trying to give you guys the latest. Hoping we could kind of wrap this one up, but we have almost, in towards some of these spots, 4,000 joules per kilogram of surface-based CAPE as we get into northwestern Nassau. It's over 4,000 joules per kilogram. So severe thunderstorm warning in play here. The severe thunderstorm warning is for northwestern Nassau, southeastern Ware, and central Charlton counties here. As I see it just pop up on the other board here as well. It says, some different modes here. A 701, a severe thunderstorm was located there 9 miles southwest of Homeland, or 9 miles west of Folkestone, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts Folkestone there. So some damaging winds, continuous cloudy ground, lightning occurring with this storm. Moving towards immediately. Lightning is one of nature's leading killers. Is what the weather service is reminding us. So remember, if you can hear thunder, you're close enough to be struck by lightning. So you got to really remember that here as we look towards southeastern Georgia right now. Towards southeast Georgia, I'm seeing a signature maybe of some hail in here. The warning is more for the winds, but let's check our hail tracker. Definitely a little bit of hail potential in here. Probably not to an inch, but around the Silver Hill community. It's kind of coming out here of the swampy area there. As we're looking, the Okefenokee swamp, literally. It's not just, me saying that because of the heat. Literally, the Okefenokee swamp is what I'm talking about here as we're looking towards southeastern Georgia with this severe thunderstorm warning in play. Again, you can kind of see here the very latest. Again, Silver Hill, Paxton Road, Roddenberry Road there. As we look at all the Doppler tools, we're just trying to update you guys, just trying to inform you the very best I can. Again, today's the 22-year anniversary of Hurricane Charlie hitting Florida. Now, a little ironic, I guess. Severe thunderstorm warning in Charlton County, Georgia. I know they don't have much, in common except just starting off, with the similar type of, just really kind of pronunciation. Again, severe thunderstorm warning now for the Folkestone area there as we look into toward Charlton County for another 25 minutes. So I need to take precautions here. Again, interior room, away from windows is what you probably would like to, really be in here in terms of this overall situation. So again, just got to be cognizant of that. Just, got to be paying attention here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put up our power outage information. You see toward Ware County, some of those impacts for sure with some of this electrical, energy here. Maybe causing some of these outages, maybe some of the wind, issues causing outages as well. So definitely, some impacts here as we look toward the zones. Again, what I think I'm going to do right now here, since we're starting to get a little more extended, is I'm going to go ahead and go to the weather computer and track things. So, I'll still be talking. I'll probably, maybe won't come back on camera unless we really get, long-winded with this for a while with a bunch more warnings, or if we, worst case scenario, somehow had some spin or something, that somehow we had a tornado warning. Not expecting that, but we got something like that. I'll come back in front of the wall, but I think I'll go ahead and run things from my computer over there off camera. So, just appreciate everybody tuning in. That's way I can kind of sit down. I mean, we've run for a while. I have a chair over here. I did that one day a couple weeks ago, and we had, we're in alert mode per se, but generally don't have it set for that. So we're just going to, continue to run things from the other source now as things do evolve. Again, just trying to keep you up to date here the best I can as things do, develop here with the storyline. Again, just trying to, give you the very latest here we have this severe thunderstorm warning in place. So just trying to keep you informed here. Sitting down at the weather computer. Again, the heat's been a big story here. You can see we have this severe thunderstorm warning, though, on the board until 7:30 p.m. Parts of Charlton County is where the focus is, around Colson Road, around, it looks like Ralph Davis Road, Brands Head Road. Again, seeing this impact here for sure. Again, we have this yellow polygon. You see parts of Nassau County involved, Ware County, Charlton County. This stuff here is getting a little bit stronger as well. It seems like, at least as I look at it from this mode, you see some wind energy in here now, 46 miles an hour, as we get into more parts of Glenn County. So, again, I just got to be very mindful here around New Post Road. I mean, remember we were talking about the Waynesville area, and the worst of that generally is kind of went around them right in town. I mean, some of the brighter colors evolving just, on the periphery, but for you guys watching there. But we'll pull up the other mode here. Just a couple different ways of showing that. See all the damage further north in Georgia here, all these different reports. I mean, there are other places too, but you can kind of see here that overall impact for sure. You just see some of that there in toward that zone. Just trying to give you guys the very latest. Again, looking here at some of the activity. Just looking here on the Doppler. Gotta watch out around Hilliard there. I mean, they're not in the warning yet, but some of this could be heading that direction here over the next little bit. Seeing some of these pixels, 46 miles an hour there, but again, there's a chance we could get, that wind down to the surface up to 58, 60 miles an hour. That's what's triggering a severe thunderstorm warning here. So just gotta be very mindful. Let's go ahead and keep looking here. $44 miles an hour. Some of this stuff, other areas still a concern as well. Again, just trying to keep you safe. Let's go ahead here. We'll look at some of our different modes. Again, this whenever thunder roars, you want to go indoors here in this type of situation, because lightning can strike miles away from a parent storm. I just got to be very careful in these type of situations. We're just wanting you to be very mindful here. You just got to be vigilant, obviously, as things do go along here with the overall scenarios as the meteorology kind of comes together here. The meteorology kind of comes together. So, I mean, it feels like temperatures, though. Some of this, this kind of tells that story in terms of all the parameters, because, the heat index is a, measure there of just how kind of muggy it's feeling. You have 102 Stark, 100 Gainesville there, 106 Bainbridge with the overall situation. So, again, these are some, not fun readings. Granted, some of these spots here, probably not going to see any storms tonight. It's just so in the overall environment here can be ripe, though, if you get the right triggers. I mean, you have the boundaries like the sea breeze there we saw. And sometimes that can allow for, if you get the spark, then this stuff can be maintained in this type of environment. Now, this other mode I'm going to say is not always going to show it exact. It's a model. It just shows you kind of some of the storm energy that's out there. It's so in the overall unstable environment here. As we're looking in joules per kilogram here, our surface-based KP's general idea of what we're looking at. I mean, just a lot of energy overall here for the storms to work with is what we're telling you about. Higher numbers. I mean, in the winter, you're looking at very low numbers. You don't need, very much at all if you have the right amount of shear to have like a tornado threat. You can have just a little bit of this. But this time of year, you don't have much shear. You have a bunch of this. It's more wind damage. In the winter, you have not much of this. But if you just get a little bit of it combined with shear, that can be a tornado threat toward like, December or something, around that timeline there. in the overall meteorology. I mean, the last two tornadoes here in Bradford County were in December, so 2020 and 2021. As we, 2020 was Christmas Eve, 2021 just before the Mayfield tornado, a day or two ahead of that. But as we go ahead and look there at the overall mapping, just trying to keep you guys safe and informed here. Just trying to keep you up to date. You see around Buddy Harris Road, Rogers Road, 20 Canal Road. Again, we have this Severe Thunderstorm Warning here in play. Look at some of these brighter colors. We're making another warning for Hilliard here. The things hold together here, unfortunately. That looks like some strengthening as we get on in here around Stanley Landing. So just going to check some of the different tools here in the toolkit behind the scenes. Appreciate everybody tuning on in and trusting me here on this Thursday, on this 13th of August, 2026. Again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Just trying to update everybody the best I can with the overall situation. So, again, trying to be here for everybody. Gonna keep looking here. Just gonna keep looking, gonna keep monitoring things here as the situation evolves. I know the wind speed, up to 60 possible, but then the movement southeast of 15 miles an hour. So we're just gonna be, vigilant about that. We're gonna try to track on this here in just a moment. Okay, so southeast at 15 miles an hour. So let's give you guys an idea of some of these potential time of arrivals. So go ahead and zoom back out. We're going to see the radar here. You see Hilliard at 7:44 p.m. potentially being impacted based on that. And maybe a little quicker than that, honestly. I mean, there's a boundary involved too, which, maybe that'll be maybe that's going to be a sign here on that periphery like that. Hopefully we maybe kind of are done with the strengthening. Maybe we'll start to weaken some. But right now, these are some fierce looking winds around Stanley Landing. Stones Road there. You see, this is about the same thing. I'm going to change this because I think I want to err on the side of caution a little bit here. We're going to go 20 miles an hour with this just to be safe and give you guys an idea. Let me just go this way here to it. Maybe more like 7:35 into the Hilliard community. So again, as we watch this overall progressing. You see Swanee Canal Road. You see some of these different areas. Aloft, at least we're seeing some pretty strong winds. Are they reaching the surface? That's a pretty big question, but we're just going to keep you up to date here as the situation develops. 51 miles an hour. As we get there near Hopkins, looks like McLeod's Mill there. Again, just watching the progression here of the activity. Some stronger winds in here. I'm just trying to keep you up there in the overall meteorology. Going to the satellite mode. So everything's been bubbling on up. We'll watch this kind of loop, of the scenario. Moving on in, seeing that overall interaction, the development here. I know it's, a little blurry at times, but it's just, the different satellite views. This is just one of them that I have. It's easier to get to in our system as you watch the overall progressing. Again, gonna have the heat. The big story here, especially as we look ahead, just not a fun picture at all with that 7-day forecast. Not what you want to see. Gonna be hot. Stay safe. As we go ahead and get back on in on the Doppler. You see around Stanley Landing. You saw Connor Nelson there, road area. And sort of outages. You see there some outages toward Ware County, Pierce County. Let's go over to currents. We'll go county power is total. See some of those outages in that format. And again, just looking through some of the different tools that I have here available behind the scenes in the toolkit. You see a warning north of our area. Way north of the area. Randolph County, Georgia. Had the heat, the big story. Some of that stuff it would take a while before it got to our area because we used to cover it up there, but we cover, starting through about, and I know it skipped the area there, but you kind of get the idea. Again, we watch the heat advisories, but then this is where our area here kind of gets going here with the overall geography. And I could go all the way across here. This, I'm just giving you the general idea, the general synopsis. Of our counties here, our DMA border per se. I know I gotta move my mouse a little to keep going, but you kind of get the idea. I can try don't mess this up as we get further over because, it does get further up here and we could go all the way across, but probably just leave it at this here. As we're looking at the overall view again, from that line south is what we cover, through, like Marion and Flagler in North Florida. But again, just giving you guys an idea of where our coverage area starts at there in Georgia now. That part of Georgia as we look at the Severe Thunderstorm Warning around Stanley Landing, Keens Road, 50-mile-an-hour winds. I see some outages there toward Charlton County on this map. Even some Union and Columbia outages from that storm we were looking at over there that didn't have a warning necessarily, but still can have some issues just in western Bradford County right now. I know seeing some of that accident around the Brooker community. Again, just trying to keep you informed. You see northern Marion County, some lightning there. I'm just watching some of the accident in the overall vicinity, starting to see this wind. They may not want to extend based on that boundary. See the lightning count. Well, it's still maintaining itself pretty good, but let's see. Take the stuff to the north at it. Might actually be going up. Let's see. Yeah, maybe a little bit in the last few frames if you look. Yeah, last frame it went back up a little. So I'll have to just watch the trends here. I do have an advisory down in here as we look till 7:45. A little bit of wind enhancement around Brooker. nothing too crazy, but whenever thunder roars, go indoors. You see this kind of band here. We just have to watch to see if things strengthen as they get, closer to the coast or the activity. Again, just looking at everything. Let's go into 3D mode. Definitely see some of these taller, cloud tops for sure, higher cloud tops. The overall storyline as we kind of spin it around here. I know it's a lot to look at sometimes, but I'll kind of just show you. I mean, we're getting some pretty high heights here with the overall activity. Some of these peaks here. Again, just trying to keep you up to date. Been with you since about 5:30. Here we had that warning come into play up toward Pierce County when we had our normal show. And we had another warning there around in northwest of Waycross. And now this other warning here, third warning for areas in southeastern Georgia, does extend a little bit in North Florida here as well. So again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Looking at the overall Doppler. You see moving toward the Hilliard area. Again, maybe just a little below severe limits based on this boundary here. That could have some pretty strong winds with it too, maybe, 40 miles an hour or something with the overall boundary in here. Another model. Let's see if it's updated some here. Still having issues picking up on what's actually ongoing. We'll watch it again through here in a moment. Still, hopefully this is a sign that things are weakening pretty quick here as we get towards sunset. See County Road 121. Some with that wind in there. Let me see if we have any new updates there from the Weather Service. Checking my information here. Okay, the severe thunderstorm warning for northwestern Nassau, southeastern Ware, and central Charlton counties will expire at 7:30. The storm, which prompted a warning, has weakened below severe limits and no longer poses an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning will be allowed to expire. However, gusty winds are still possible with the thunderstorms. So we're going to let the warning go at 7:30. That's a good sign here, that we're in a better shape than we were here with the overall situation meteorologically. Still got to watch the trends. We may still have some more of these pop up. It's still technically going to be on the board for another few minutes, but you see here we have the new advisory popping on in here. Still some pretty gusty winds possible around Hilliard there as we're looking through 8 o'clock and even into Kingsland as we look there into parts of southeast Georgia. So just got to watch the overall trends. Make sure we don't get another warning in here. Wind gusts up to 50, excessive cloud to ground lightning, Kingsland, Hilliard, Folkestone, Homeland, St. George, and Kings Ferry through 8 p.m. So just, we'll stay vigilant, obviously, to make sure we don't have to come back on the air. As, the yellow box to be going away here. Technically, some maps will actually show it already off, but this keeps it on until the expiration time at 7:30. But let me see if there's any more questions, comments. Going to go to the other computer source. I just appreciate everybody tuning on in, everybody trusting me here on this Thursday. I appreciate the viewership. Appreciate all of you interaction here on this Thursday. Again, we'll continue to update you. If I need to break back in, I will here. Obviously, the warning, technically, it's going to be up for a few more minutes, but really that thread is wrapping on up. It's set to expire at 7:30. If there's a tornado warning, we would walk you all the way through the rest of it, but I think we've talked enough about this. If we get another warning, we'll pop back in now, so keep it tuned to Cloud Weather. I hear some thunder where we're at around Stark, so let me just see if anything's changed down here. Getting some, don't particularly love seeing that one pop up way away from the apparent thunderstorm like that. Let me look at this real quick. Make sure we don't have anything that's really ramping up on us. This looks like it's kind of getting a little bit stronger here. Seeing some organization here over the last few frames. Heard that rumble of thunder because it's probably from this one down in here. As we're looking at the overall situation just north of Hampton Lake. That's always concerning. There's rumbles of thunder, kind of a bolt, maybe not from the blue, but not much, from that here. I mean, we're just heard that from about 7 miles away here, give or take to where we're at, and then situation, getting some different interactions, maybe gonna get some upscale growth in there. We'll have to see because let's see how far that is from the actual thunderstorm. That is 5 miles away. That is concerning. It can catch people off guard. This other one's about 3 miles away. So just got to remember whenever thunder roars go indoors here, that can be, tricky for sure. I don't think it's enough, quite for a warning. We have all that heat as you keep seeing me pop some of the indicators on for. You see this boundary. Let's just check something with this because that could act as a trigger. I think it did for the area down there. We had that interaction and it's caused that to grow in strength there. The lightning count's gone up and the like, so. Again, we'll watch that if we, obviously if we get a warning, the water will be back on, but I don't see a whole bunch of wind in this, thankfully. Doesn't mean there couldn't be a little bit more than what it's showing the advisories for. Let me see what that's about. Let me just check on that real quick here with the radar, and then we're going to check on this here. So at 7:21, Doppler's tracking a strong thunderstorm near New River, or 8 miles southeast of Worthington Spring, moving southeast at 10 miles an hour. Wind gusts there around 40 miles an hour, excessive cloud to ground lightning. Gusty winds can knock down tree limbs and blow around unsecured objects. Excessive cloud to ground lightning is occurring in Stark, Sampson, Waldo, Hampton, and Brooker. So, Stark's right on the edge of that really, but, a little bit of town technically is in that advisory there as we're looking. So, and that's, and it's for good reason because you have stuff like this happening way away from the apparent thunderstorms. So. It looks like, I don't know how, it's probably pretty new, I don't wonder if it hit one of those trees out there on that, a little more open and more, if it's cloud to ground, and that could have happened. That's what it kind of looked like, trees out there anyway on that view, but. Again, more wind up here by a good margin. That's why I don't really think there's, much imminent concern for a warning down there, but still, not something to mess around with. Now, this here is also a little concerning, some of these numbers here. Because, as we get toward the Woodbine area, some interactions going on with these boundaries, and that can sometimes get a burst of wind energy down to the surface. As they kind of scrub back a little bit. You see the word Hilliard there. 7:30, so the yellow box should officially go away, but then you see pixels like that. And you at least, it's a little displaced, but yeah. I don't know, that's one of our stronger ones we've seen here as we've been looking at things. Right there around Georgia Street. I hate to have a chance at another warning here, but I also, as much as I don't want to keep talking about this and just hope there's not another warning, I also don't want to go off and have to jump right back in, and by the time I get back on, it's already past here and we're not really warning people. So let's stick with this a couple more minutes here. As we look in case they issue another warning for the Hilliard area, because we're seeing some pixels that are getting pretty close here on the Doppler radar scan. They're maybe reaching back up to severe limits here around the Hilliard area, unfortunately, as we're all watching the overall scenario. So, see some of these numbers, right there on the edge of severe. 58 is severe. As we look here, as we look in toward parts of Nassau County, that boundary generally would be an indicator that we're having weakening take place, but let's look at the lightning count. It's going up, actually. And this here, we had some interaction go on. I don't see near as much in the wind mode, but there's a little bit all of a sudden here around Graham. So all of a sudden now up to 35. That happened quick. And that's not severe or anything, but to go from really nothing on that last scan, 20, to 35, that's a big change there, really, when you're looking at stuff like this. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but 35 when at least start. At least it starts, I know 35 is not anywhere close to 60, but you see that and you start to think, well, could we, a little bit more, you could get a burst of wind energy or something down to the surface. So you just have to be very vigilant here, because then all of a sudden that, does put the idea of a severe thunderstorm warning at least in the thought process. Maybe not likely, but it's possible here as we look toward the Graham area. So we're gonna watch that. That's here in our county where we're at. It's not too close to where I'm at, but and I just saw it on my board. Waiting to know if there's some flash flooding concerns here today. Around northwest of Charleston, not our area, but that's just interesting. We had a lot of flooding concerns in Indiana, and not too much around here. Thankfully with flooding concerns, we still need the rain. We got that latest drought outlook here. We still need more rain here, as you can see in the word that's red. We still have that extreme drought. So we're looking at the overall situation. Even though we're getting some rain in here, that can be a wildfire creator, stuff like this too. You know what? You got to remember that. I mean, I don't, that's why you got to get rain over these areas here, folks, because, just got to be kind of cognizant. Got to be kind of careful here. Just got to be very mindful of the overall situation as we look at the overall data points here on the Doppler scans. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. Again, we're kind of staying with you because just in case we get another warning up here, we just had the one go away officially at 7:30. But again, we're seeing some pretty strong pixels on here. Moving in toward the Hilliard area, more populated zones. So, right around Georgia Street here, at least aloft, we're only about 1,000 feet up. We're seeing at least the potential for winds 55 miles an hour. Granted, that boundary is, in theory, it would make you think maybe a little less chance of that happening. And we had the warning go away. But we're still seeing stuff on the velocity modes. It's just, when I wrap up, I'd rather just, kind of be able to just kind of be done, and then I have to jump right back in here, and then again, maybe, by the time I get back on, it's too late to warn people around Hilliard. By the way, this is very unusual. I see it just popped in my mode, but there's a Salt Lake City, Utah office. This is a tornado warning. That almost never happens in the country. Reminds me of a tornado. I hope there's nothing on the ground, but reminds me of the big story there. Late 90s, a tornado hit Salt Lake City. They very rarely issue warnings out there for tornadic activities. So we already had one thing from the Reno office earlier today. So some interesting weather going on here across the country. Not, applicable really to our 38 counties, but I mean, we do have the hot pattern here overall with the flow, but again, just thought I'd mention it so I saw it on my board. We won't show it on the map or anything, but 55 miles an hour here, though, with the potential there toward the Hilliard area there as we're looking and toward Nassau County. That latest scan's a little weaker, so that's some good news. Maybe we're seeing the, conditions, maybe less favorable conditions start to catch up now with the storm as we look toward Nassau County. That'd be some good news. Granted, still, even under severe limits, it could still knock a tree limb or a tree down or something, even if we're not quite to the severe criteria, still could cause issues here. You got to remember, I mean, lightning can be deadly. Trees falling, it doesn't take, severe officially to still have a tree to fall. So you still got to be very cognizant here as we look at the overall situation. We still look at the overall meteorology here very carefully. So, again, just trying to keep you informed. Trying to update the very best I can. Let's go over here. Last day of rain. I mean, this is broad brush, but some spots in Bradford here showing a good bit. It's May, underdo it a little bit, a couple inches there, and then last week here of rain. Turn the alerts off. I mean, some spots have got a good bit of rain here lately. Parts of Duval County, especially, a little more spaced out, which is good. But we still need more rain in some of these spots because I'll go back to our drought monitor, and you see what I'm talking about here. Now today, no formal risk is severe as we're looking, but things just happen here. We haven't had a whole bunch of warnings compared to the north. They've really overachieved, north of our area with a bunch of warnings. I think we've just had 3, I want to say. If I'm counting right here for our area, this is spaced out, just drawn here that we've had to stick with you, and we had a formal show too, but I know. Let's look at the national radar picture. Just to see in here all the rain reports there, obviously. up north. And wind reports, just a lot of different impacts for sure. Different parts of the country. But again, just trying to update you. Trying to be here for you. Maybe a little bit of hail in here. It's possible. So getting toward the Hilliard area. Some possibilities, maybe just, a little under severe probably is what we'll be talking about, though. Just a little under an inch is what I'm saying. A little under an inch in diameter. A little bit of wind enhancement here right around Graham. So 31 and 11, so that's 42 miles an hour worth of wind potential there in southern Bradford County now. Not enough for a severe warning necessarily, but still some impacts there overall. Maybe, just here and there. Blow a tree limb down, something like that would be more likely than an actual tree, but still, you never know on that hyperlocal level. Had some reports in some of these areas here toward Berrien County, north of the area, Irwin County, where we used to cover, but, in Ware County, the heat danger, and you not to have, I guess, the 42 miles an hour there. That was a story earlier on. Well, let me go ahead and go to the county priorities total. 1,000 out in Ware, 300 out in Columbia, 100 out there as we get toward Brooks, 400 out there in toward Glenn, 100 out in toward Pierce. See different counties there with the different impacts. Let's go to Valdosta radar, and I think we're going to look at the velocity from that real quick. See how the wind looks over here. I mean, aloft, it looks pretty high, but not enough for severe maybe. And that's the good news. But still could cause some issues. We'll be watching toward Jacksonville Airport, too. That type of trajectory, could get us closer toward Jacksonville Airport there. Let me see what the speed is on here. Again, I kind of stall on just in case we get another warning. But even though I think I'm going to wrap soon. I just hate to wrap and then have a situation we get another warning, and then we have to kind of race to get back on here. So just want to err on the side of caution. Southeast at 10 miles an hour. Let me put our TOA tool on. I'm going to do 15 to be on the safe side with this then. As we kind of put that on in here. Parts of northern Duval, that says it being a while till it gets there. So hopefully it'll fade as we get closer to sunset, but we'll see. Well, a lot of lightning there. Definitely as we get toward dark. I mean, might be seeing some of that lightning around. It's a situation here where, it's not as, I know my friend there in southern Tennessee, Elijah Kirby, meteorologist Elijah Kirby wrote an article last week, just kind of really a good reminder for everybody there with weather folklore that it's not something here where you actually have heat lightning. That's not a real concept here, but it just gives everybody an idea, that, at night when you're seeing those flashes, it's just really, that regular lightning. It's just something, if you're seeing it from far away, you're not hearing the sound of it, maybe. It's just the normal lighting. It's just, sometimes, this time of year, we have the electrical nature of things, so people kind of want to, say, well, it's hot out. And I know the article goes into a lot more detail, but look at that up there. Look it up, stnweather.com. I know he wrote that great article there about, the myth there per se, the weather folklore of heat lightning. I shared it on my social media there as well. But go to stnweather.com. You go down a little bit there, search for it because it was last week. But great article about that, kind of weather folklore there and the myth of that. So, because you might, be getting some questions about that here next little bit as it gets dark. You might see lightning from ways away, and that's, you'll say, well, there's heat lightning, but no, that's not really what it is scientifically. So, again, that's kind of the storyline there. Again, appreciate everybody tuning on in, everybody trusting me here on this Thursday night. I've been talking for about 2 hours, so just to really appreciate the viewership here. Appreciate everybody watching as it's been on for a while. You see the winds, they're still impactful maybe, but they're not to the 60 threshold that really can cause the power outages. That's why you have a warning for like 60, because when you get a yellow box, that means you have the potential here for that damage that can really start to affect the power system there. And because it's knocking down trees, once you get about 60, that's when things start really happening there based on studies and the light. That's why we get the yellow boxes when we get, the potential for closer to 60 miles an hour with the winds, and or just the burst of wind energy even obviously can do it even if it's over for just a few minutes. If it's, impacting people and, your family, it's a big deal. So again, we'll be back if it's warranted, but things look a little bit better right now. I say that, and we've said that before here. We're just trying to be careful. That looks a little weaker. That looks a little weaker. Still some wind in there, and it's headed in general direction of Duval, but it's going to take a little bit. So again, we're just going to, we're going to keep watching the trends here on the Doppler, but I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things on up. Let me see if there's any more questions, comments. Don't see anything, but if I need to be back on, I will. So that's going to kind of conclude the coverage for now after a little over 2 hours. But that heat's going to be the big story as we look ahead in the timeline. I've said a few times we're going to wrap coverage up, but things keep, shifting. Here's your look at that heat again, though. It's going to be hot, very hot. High heat index values here. Got to be aware of that. Just trying to enjoy things the best you can, but it's going to be hot here. School's back in session, and that heat danger definitely around. And then you have to watch for some of those storms here with the heat of the day. Just got to be very cognizant. But, just whenever thunder roars, go indoors, wear light color, loose-fitting clothing. For the heat, of course, is, for the schools, the students have to be in dress code, but I just try to stay as cool as possible here with the overall situation. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for trusting me. I'll be back if warranted. Again, tomorrow, the chance of storms is actually higher, even though today we weren't, seeing maybe a whole bunch in the modeling. We knew the potential was there, and it came to fruition a little bit more even than what you would generally think. But tomorrow, it's even higher. We have some of those high school football kickoff classics going, and that could be an impact. So be aware of the weather for those because some storms could impact those here with the overall meteorology. We got to be paying attention here. We got to be paying attention, folks, in terms of the overall storyline as we look ahead because that can be dangerous. Tonight, some outdoor events, or maybe some of those tonight, even on a Thursday. Just got to be really careful because whenever thunder roars, you need to go indoors, obviously. All that electrical accident can be problematic here for any outdoor events. And we'll be here watching things. Think about all the high school games. You think about the metal bleachers. You don't want to be out in those if there's lightning around. So we'll be watching all that for you and have more here. Hopefully, we won't have to jump back on tonight, but if we do, we'll be here. But otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow for more coverage on cloud weather, giving you guys that very latest information here to protect you, your friends, and your family. Inform you, your friends, and your family. Enjoy things the best you can.